Okay, I have something that I want to get off my chest, and I normally don't do that in this type of forum, but I want to talk about online trolling and how certain people in the photography community tend to behave towards one another. Another thing that's bothering me, it's going to bother you too, this picture fell down back here and I'm working on it. But anyway, I know that I'm probably preaching to the wrong choir, because one thing I will say about the stuff that I do on YouTube is, I mean, sure, there is some riffraff in there, but for the most part, I'm very proud of the audience that I have, and you guys tend to leave very constructive comments that yield further discussion that are intelligent, and I'm very grateful that that exists. And I'm not talking about something that's happening here. And I also know that nothing I say in this video is going to change the way people behave towards one another online. But here's the deal. The photography community is extremely important. Now, I'm old and I didn't have the internet in high school, so I remember life before the internet, and then by the time I got in college, it became available. And I remember the difference between the two, and I think especially if you live in a more remote area or in a small town, that you don't have access to the kind of camaraderie that's possible through the internet. And I remember in the early Flickr days, and I know I always talk about the early Flickr days, but pre-Yahoo, when it was a small community, there was a dynamic there that was just really cool and magical. And there are friends that I made, like Dave Bias, who works at Ferrania, that's how we met. There are friends that I still keep to this day that I met there that live all over the world. And that was the magical part of that, is that it was an online community of photographers from all over who got together and supported one another. And then Flickr grew and it changed and it just kind of faded out a little bit, and that's what happened. But, you know, now we have a larger influx of people online, and I will say this. I understand a lot of the frustrations that come with photography. Photography is difficult because everyone's a photographer, it seems sometimes. You know, everybody's on Instagram, everybody has a cell phone, and being able to stand out amongst the other work that's there is difficult. It requires a lot of work, a lot of patience, and sometimes that becomes frustrating to people. For those that want to do photography as a career, it's extremely difficult. I will never lie to you and say that it's not. It is. And so I understand a lot of the frustrations that can boil up with photographers in general, but I think the power of us coming together online is to get around some of those frustrations and have that camaraderie to lean on. And I think that's really important. And you guys know what I'm talking about. There's certain forums that you can go visit, some of the big photography websites. You know, you read the article and then you scroll down to the bottom and then you see the Discus thread, because I guess they don't really care about, you know, fostering a decent community, so they put it out to Discus. Anyway, whatever. And so somebody will come in and they'll say something like, you know, a newbie question, you know, a beginner question. Then somebody comes in and tears them and makes them look stupid because they didn't know, or something like that. Or even worse, somebody comes in and has an opinion that differs from everybody else, and therefore somebody feels the right to come in and just rip them in half for it. And like I said, I know there's nothing I can say to change that necessarily in this video, but this is a discussion worth having because it's problematic. And I know it's only a few people and it's a loud minority, but it does exist. The other thing, that to give people the benefit of the doubt, the internet is very crude the way it works. We hide behind fake usernames sometimes, some people do, and you don't know what's going on in their lives. I mean, maybe there's some really traumatic experience that they're having outside of their internet life that they're just bringing that stress in with. You know, I understand that doesn't justify it, it doesn't make it right, but that could be part of the problem. But I guess what this brought this up and brought this to my attention, 2 days ago, I did a video where I gave some advice to a 14-year-old who had written me a letter and asked me what I thought the most important thing I'd learned in photography was, and I shared that. Now, this got picked up by a couple of the big websites, and I don't want to say where this was or who was involved because I don't want to bring attention to it, and it's really just not worth it. And that's happened before, and it's really cool because more people see your video and all, but you know, you're going to get the trolls in there. Now, I have pretty thick skin. I've done YouTube for 8 years now, and I can deal with criticism. I don't mind if people disagree or want to make fun of me or whatever. I've seen it before. It's nothing new. The problem that I had is they disagreed with the advice that I gave to this individual and then decided to start doling out their own advice of what they thought was important for a child to understand, or a kid to understand, or somebody who's 14. A couple things come to mind. First of all, like I said, I don't care. It doesn't insult me. It's not a blast to my ego. I just worry that I shared that, and it wasn't that it was super private, obviously. I shared it online, but what if this individual's reading that? And basically they went on to say that I was wrong in trying to encourage somebody to follow their dreams. Now, 14 or not, I would have given that advice to anybody, a 55-year-old, a 75-year-old, a 5-year-old. I mean, that's just what I believe. I live by that, and I firmly believe it. And to discourage a kid from pursuing something just because maybe there's some baggage that's burnt somebody out and they feel like they need to take that out on everybody, and that's pathetic, and it's easy, and it goes nowhere. And I just don't understand that. And if you don't believe me and don't believe that you can do anything you want, this is what I said in the video, you can do anything you want. My parents always used to say it comes with a price tag. And what are you willing to sacrifice, and how hard are you willing to work to get there? I wouldn't say lucky, but I am fortunate to be having the kind of career that I'm having. When people ask me what I do for a living, I get to play with cool cameras. I get to take pictures of whatever I want, and I get to talk about it on YouTube. And that's pretty cool. It's very satisfying. It's exciting. It's something that I aspired to do. I didn't fall into this. I busted my tail to do it. And I can guarantee you, anybody who's successful, and I've had the opportunity to meet other YouTubers that are very successful, way more successful than me. I've met some of my colleagues. I've met some very well-known, established name photographers. Everyone has worked very hard to get to where they are. There is no questioning that. They're willing to make sacrifices. They figured it out. They were willing to do it. And you're not going for the money or the fact that you just like to work a lot of long hours. It's satisfying in the end when you get there, but you can do it. Anybody can do it. You've got to put your mind to it. You've got to be willing to put in the hours, put in the work, but you too can get it done. And that's just a fact of it. I mean, I don't believe in luck. I think that an interesting conversation about this recently, rather than saying people are lucky, there's the right person and there's timing. So it's the right person in the right place at the right time doing the right thing, and things come together really quickly. And we see that happen. Those people still have to work to sustain it, though. So there is no luck in any of this. It's just determining what you want to do and getting with it. Anyway, let me just underline the fact that I'm not personally offended by that. It's not something I felt was insulting to me, but I was more worried about the kind of advice that we give to kids sometimes and the way we come off as a community of photographers. We're not supportive a lot of times. We behave like that. And there's just something that got under my skin about that. Like I said, 14 I would not call a kid, first of all. I am not a parent, full disclosure, but I have a nephew who's 14, and I am constantly amazed. I can tell you he's way more sophisticated than me and my friends were at that age. I've had conversations with him that I've really been impressed with how thoughtful he was, with how sincere he was and sensitive he was to certain things. Now, I don't see the day-to-day. I'm not a parent. I know that. And my role as an uncle is very much different. But as a friend of mine once said, who has a really cool kid of his own, and I was asking him about parenting, and he said, part of the problem sometimes is that parents tend to treat their kids like kids, and there are times where you want to treat them like adults. And anyway, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying that this just got under my skin. And I would like to know what you guys have to say on this too, because this is something that affects us all when you see people that just decide to be trolls like that. And it's unfortunate, but it exists. I want to leave you with two quotes. I like quotes. Anyway, one of them is from Plato, and I think this is important to our discussion as well. It says, "Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle." And in the benefit of the doubt with people who behave poorly online, you don't know what they're dealing with sometimes, and I will give people the benefit of the doubt there. The other quote I want to give you, which is a little bit happier, but this is from a public school educator years ago named William Perky, who once said, "Dance like nobody's watching." I will put some other videos up here to some things I've been talking about, and dance like nobody's watching. You can watch one of those. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, later.